Imagine sitting down at a quiet restaurant for dinner, thinking it's just another normal night, when suddenly everything changes in a way you'd never expect. That's the kind of story I'm about to tell you, a story that will make you hold your breath, one that shows how bravery can come from the most unexpected places. And trust me, by the end, you'll see why you need to hit that like button and subscribe, because stories like this prove that ordinary people can rise up and do extraordinary things. It all began with Jonathan Cross, a billionaire CEO known for his cold demeanor and relentless ambition. To the world, he was a giant. Business magazines called him the Shark of Wall Street. Yet underneath all the headlines, he was just a man sitting alone that night in a corner booth of a mid-tier Italian restaurant, tired from the endless board meetings and fake smiles. He chose the restaurant because it was out of the way, somewhere no one would expect to find him. What Jonathan didn't know was that his presence had not gone unnoticed. At the far end of the dining room, 3 men watched him closely. They weren't customers, they were predators waiting for the right moment. Each one had their own reason for being there. One was a former employee who claimed Jonathan's company ruined his life, another was a petty criminal looking for ransom money, and the last one was simply hungry for power, the kind that comes from taking down someone important. Together, they had a plan, and Jonathan was the target. But there was someone else in the room. Her name was Emily. She was 24, a waitress who worked double shifts just to pay rent and help her younger brother get through school. Life hadn't been kind to her, but she never complained. To the customers, she was just the girl carrying plates and smiling politely. No one would have guessed that beneath her quiet exterior was someone who had faced hardships most people couldn't imagine. She had grown up learning how to fight, not because she wanted to, but because she had to survive in a neighborhood where trouble came knocking almost every day. The night seemed normal until the 3 men cornered Jonathan at his booth. One sat across from him without invitation, another stood by the exit, and the third blocked the path to the kitchen. Their voices were low but sharp, their eyes full of intent. Jonathan tried to act calm, but his heartbeat betrayed him. They weren't asking for money, they wanted him to publicly admit responsibility for things he claimed he hadn't done. It was humiliation, power, and control they were after. Emily noticed it first. She saw Jonathan's glass tremble as he lifted it. She heard the change in tone, the way fear slithered into his usually confident voice. And then she saw the subtle flash of metal when one of the men shifted his jacket. A weapon. Her instincts screamed, but instead of panicking, she steadied herself. She couldn't call the police. By the time they arrived, it would be too late. She had only moments to decide. The room grew tense. Other diners were oblivious, caught up in their meals and conversations. Emily felt like the weight of the world rested on her shoulders. She thought about her brother, about all the times she had to be strong for him. She thought about her own life, always overlooked, underestimated. And something inside her snapped. This was her moment. She wouldn't let fear dictate the outcome. With quiet determination, Emily began to move. She approached the table with a tray of water glasses, pretending it was just another routine service. Her heart raced, but her face showed calm professionalism. When she reached Jonathan's table, she suddenly dropped the tray, sending glasses crashing to the floor. The distraction was enough. In that split second of confusion, Emily lunged at the man nearest to Jonathan, grabbing his arm and twisting it until the knife he carried clattered against the tile. Chaos erupted. Jonathan froze, disbelief painted across his face. The other 2 men rushed toward Emily, but she wasn't the fragile girl they thought she was. Years of surviving on tough streets had taught her to fight smart. She kicked one attacker in the knee, sending him collapsing, while using a broken glass shard to keep the third at bay. The restaurant erupted in gasps as diners realized what was happening. Some scrambled to escape, others dialed 911, but all eyes were on Emily, the waitress who refused to back down. The fight was brutal, messy, and real. Emily took hits, pain shot through her ribs when one man struck her, but she didn't stop. Every punch, every move was fueled by something deeper than fear. It was fueled by the belief that she couldn't allow darkness to win, not tonight. Eventually, the attackers were subdued. By the time the police stormed in, Emily stood bruised but unbroken, her chest heaving as she kept the men pinned long enough for the officers to cuff them. Jonathan sat there in silence, staring at her. For the first time in his life, he felt powerless, but also inspired. This young woman, who had no wealth, no security, no influence, had just risked everything to protect him. It humbled him. When he finally spoke, his voice cracked with sincerity. "You saved my life," he said softly. The aftermath was just as powerful as the fight. News spread quickly, painting Emily as a hero. But for her, it wasn't about fame, it was about doing what was right when no one else could. Jonathan, forever changed by the experience, offered to support her brother's education and help Emily build the future she